Lieutenant Commander Rhea Vale stood at the helm of the Stellar Guardian, her iridescent Solarian uniform catching the light of distant stars. The navigational hologram cast a soft blue glow across her silver-flecked skin, highlighting the distinctive crystalline patterns that marked her as one of the elite Solarian fleet officers. The peaceful mission to the Omega Nebula had seemed routine, until it wasn't. "Commander, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the asteroid belt," her first officer, Theron, reported. His luminescent eyes narrowed as he studied the readings. "They don't match any known patterns in our database." Rhea's hand instinctively moved to the neural interface at the base of her neck, a trademark of Solarian military enhancement. "Show me the anomaly," she commanded, and the hologram shifted to display a cluster of asteroids emitting pulses of violet energy. Before she could issue orders, the ship's emergency protocols activated. Red warning lights bathed the bridge in an ominous glow. "Multiple vessels decloaking," Theron shouted. "They're using some kind of primitive but effective masking technology." Space pirates. They'd been waiting in ambush, using the asteroid field's natural interference to mask their presence. Rhea's training kicked in as she began issuing rapid commands. "Defensive formations. Get our civilians to the escape pods." The Stellar Guardian was a peacekeeping vessel, not a warship. Its shields were designed for meteoroid protection, not sustained weapons fire. As the first volley of enemy fire struck, the ship shuddered violently. Rhea maintained her balance, her enhanced reflexes compensating for the impact. "Return fire," she ordered. "Target their propulsion systems. We need to keep them from pursuing the escape pods." The Guardian's defensive weapons responded, sending precise energy pulses toward the attacking vessels. 2 direct hits, but there were too many of them. Another blast rocked the ship, more powerful than the first. Warning signals blared as multiple systems began failing simultaneously. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 5, someone shouted. "Gravitational stabilizers failing." Rhea knew they were outmatched. "Begin evacuation procedures," she commanded. "All hands to escape pods." She turned to Theron. "Get to the auxiliary bridge. Coordinate the evacuation from there." "Commander, protocol dictates." "That's an order, Theron." As her crew rushed to execute her commands, Rhea remained at her post, manually adjusting the ship's remaining shields to protect the evacuating crew members. The pirates were targeting escape pods now, exactly what she'd feared. She diverted power from life support to the weapons systems, buying precious seconds for her people to escape. The next hit came without warning. A massive explosion ripped through the bridge, sending debris flying in all directions. Rhea was thrown backward, her enhanced body crashing through several bulkheads before coming to rest in a maintenance corridor. The impact would have killed a normal human instantly. Pain unlike anything she'd ever experienced coursed through her body. She tried to move, but her lower body wouldn't respond. Through blurring vision, she saw that her legs were crushed, the advanced Solarian biotech that enhanced her nervous system sparking and failing. Emergency medical drones found her minutes later, their scanners assessing her injuries with cold efficiency. As consciousness faded, she heard the distinctive hum of an Etherian medical transport. The last thing she saw was the concerned face of an Etherian doctor, their translucent features distorted by her failing vision. She awoke in the prestigious Etherian Medical Institute on Celestis Prime, their most advanced medical facility. The room was pristine, filled with technology that would make even Solarian engineers envious. A team of Etherian doctors stood around her bed, their expressions grave. Lieutenant Commander Vale, the lead physician, Dr. Vrel, addressed her. Their voice was melodious but clinical. "We've done everything within our considerable expertise. The damage to your neural enhancement system was catastrophic. The integration between your natural nervous system and the Solarian biotech has been irreparably compromised." Rhea's throat felt dry. "Meaning?" You will never walk again. The damage is beyond our ability to repair. Even with our most advanced regenerative techniques, the neural pathways are too severely damaged. I'm sorry. The words hit harder than the explosion that had crippled her. Solarians prided themselves on their physical perfection, their seamless integration of biology and technology. To be permanently disabled was more than a physical limitation, it was a fundamental blow to her very identity. There must be something, she argued, her voice hoarse. Some experimental treatment, some new technology. Dr. Vrel's expression softened slightly. Commander, we are the most advanced medical civilization in known space. If we cannot repair this damage, it cannot be repaired. The sooner you accept this reality, the sooner you can begin adapting to your new circumstances. As the doctors left her room, Rhea stared out the window at the gleaming spires of Celestis Prime. Somewhere in the distance, she could see the distinctive architecture of the human embassy, its design standing out among the flowing Etherean structures. A memory stirred, a conversation overheard months ago about human medical breakthroughs, dismissed by many as primitive but producing unexplainable results. She touched the neural interface at the base of her neck, feeling the damaged connections that had once made her exceptional. The Etherians might be the most advanced medical civilization in space, but they weren't the only ones pushing the boundaries of what was possible. A plan began forming in her mind. If the most advanced civilization couldn't help her, perhaps it was time to try something less advanced, something unconventional. Something human. The quantum lift hummed softly as it carried Rhea through the human district of Celestis Prime. Her hoverchair, a masterpiece of Etherean engineering, drew curious glances from passing humans. 3 months had passed since the attack, and each day felt like another defeat in a battle she couldn't win. The human sector was different from the rest of the city, chaotic, vibrant, and filled with contradictions. Neon signs clashed with holographic advertisements, and the air carried the scent of real, cooked food rather than the nutritionally optimized atmospheres of Etherean districts. It was considered primitive by most advanced species, but to Rhea, it felt alive. She approached a nondescript building wedged between a noodle shop and a defunct quantum repair store. The sign, actually painted on the wall rather than projected, read Walsh Regenerative Medicine, in simple block letters. Below it, smaller text declared, where advanced medicine meets human intuition. Dr. Nathan Walsh's reputation had reached her through unofficial channels, whispered conversations among injured soldiers, encrypted messages on underground medical networks. The human doctor who achieved the impossible, who took cases other doctors declared hopeless. The authorities called him a charlatan, his patients called him a miracle worker. The clinic's entrance scanner beeped in confusion at her Solarian biology before reluctantly opening the door. Inside, the waiting room defied her expectations. Instead of the sterile efficiency of Etherean facilities, the space was warm and cluttered. Real plants grew in corners, their leaves reaching toward natural sunlight that streamed through windows, an unthinkable luxury on Celestis Prime. Lieutenant Commander Vale, a voice called, and Rhea turned to see a man in his late 40s emerging from a back room. Dr. Walsh wore simple medical scrubs rather than the environmental suits favored by Etherean physicians. His dark hair was streaked with gray, and laugh lines crinkled around his eyes. "I've been expecting you." "You have?" He smiled, gesturing for her to follow him. Word travels fast when a decorated Solarian officer starts asking questions about alternative treatments. "The Etherean Medical Board has already warned me not to take your case. And yet you agreed to see me. Let's just say I have a problem with anyone claiming something's impossible." He led her into an examination room that looked more like a workshop. Mechanical parts and biological samples shared space with medical equipment she didn't recognize. "May I?" he asked, holding up a scanner. Rhea nodded, and he began examining her injuries. His movements were precise but gentle, different from the clinical detachment of Etherean doctors. "Fascinating," he muttered. The integration of your bio-enhancements with your nervous system is incredibly sophisticated. The damage is severe, but what? But not irreparable. He set down the scanner and met her gaze directly. The Etherians aren't wrong, by their methods, this is impossible to fix. They're trying to restore your original neural pathways. I want to try something different. He pulled up a holographic display, but unlike the pristine Etherian projections, this one flickered slightly. Human nerve regeneration techniques are considered primitive because we had to work with basic human biology. No enhancements, no synthetic integration. But that limitation forced us to understand neural regeneration at its most fundamental level. The display showed a complex network of neurons and synthetic pathways. Your Solarian enhancements are amazing, but they're also part of the problem. They're too perfect, too rigid. Human nervous systems are messier, but more adaptable. I think we can use that principle here. You want to make my nervous system more human? The idea seemed absurd. In a manner of speaking. More flexible, less dependent on perfect synthetic integration. It won't be as efficient as your original enhancement, but it will work. You'll walk again. Rhea studied him carefully. Why would you take this risk? The Etherian Medical Board has already threatened to revoke my license twice. He shrugged. They're not fond of my methods. But I've seen too many patients walk out of here who were told they never would. Sometimes the most advanced solution isn't the right one. A commotion in the waiting room interrupted them. Through the door, Rhea heard the distinctive harmonic tones of Etherian authorities. Dr. Walsh cursed under his breath. They're earlier than I expected. Dr. Walsh, a melodious voice called. By order of the medical board, you are to cease all contact with Lieutenant Commander Vale immediately. Walsh turned to Rhea, his expression serious. It's your choice. Walk away now, continue with conventional treatment, and accept their prognosis. Or trust a primitive human doctor who's probably going to lose his license for even suggesting this. Through the door, she could hear the Etherian authorities approaching. Every logical part of her mind told her to comply, to trust in the advanced civilization that had guided her people for generations. But logic hadn't helped her these past 3 months. When do we start? She asked. Walsh's grin was infectious. He quickly pressed a data chip into her hand. Tomorrow, 0600, at this location. Come alone, and make sure you're not followed. He turned to face the approaching authorities, positioning himself between them and Rhea. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go get arrested. Again. As she left through a back exit, listening to Walsh cheerfully arguing with the Etherian authorities, Rhea felt something she hadn't experienced since the attack: hope. It wasn't just about walking again, it was about challenging the assumptions that had defined her existence. In her hover chair, clutching the data chip that might change everything, she smiled. The Etherians were right, she would never walk again, not as a Solarian. But perhaps she could learn to walk as something new, something that combined the best of both worlds. The real question was, how many laws would she have to break to do it? The underground medical facility looked like it had been cobbled together from salvaged equipment and forgotten technology. Located in the sublevels of an abandoned industrial complex, it was exactly the kind of place that would give Etherian medical inspectors nightmares. But to Rhea, lying on the modified surgical bed as Dr. Walsh prepared his equipment, it felt like a sanctuary. Before we begin, Walsh said, calibrating what appeared to be a hybrid of human and Solarian medical technology, I need you to understand something. This isn't just experimental, it's revolutionary. We're not just fixing your legs, we're rewriting everything we know about neural regeneration. Rhea watched him work, noting how his movements were precise despite the apparent chaos of his workspace. Why hasn't anyone tried this before? Because it's technically illegal in about 6 different jurisdictions. He adjusted a series of neural interfaces. The Etherians believe in perfect solutions. The idea of a good enough fix that actually works is offensive to them. Plus, mixing human and Solarian medical tech. He whistled. Let's just say there are some very old laws against that sort of thing. The first phase of treatment began with something deceptively simple. Walsh used a modified neural scanner to map the exact pattern of damage to her enhancement system. But unlike Etherian doctors who saw only broken connections, he looked for alternative pathways. Your nervous system is trying to heal itself, he explained, pointing to subtle energy patterns on the display. The Etherian enhancements are actually fighting against your body's natural regeneration. It's like two repair crews working against each other. Hours passed as Walsh methodically began the process of integrating human regenerative compounds with Rhea's Solarian biology. Each step was a careful balance, a dance between two fundamentally different approaches to healing. Interesting, he muttered at one point, studying readings that meant nothing to Rhea. Your body's accepting the human neural growth factors better than expected. Almost like, hold on. He rapidly typed commands into his system, and new data streams appeared. This is incredible. The crystalline patterns in your cellular structure, they're adapting, creating hybrid pathways. Rhea tried to focus through the discomfort. Is that good or bad? It's unprecedented. Your Solarian biology isn't just accepting the treatment, it's improving on it. The perfect efficiency of your systems combined with the adaptability of human healing. He trailed off, lost in the implications. The next few hours were intense. Rhea felt sensations she couldn't describe, burning cold along neural pathways, tingling that seemed to echo through dimensions that shouldn't exist, moments where her consciousness seemed to float free of her body entirely. Then something changed. A jolt of sensation shot through her lower body, not pain, but presence. She could feel her legs again, not as the dead weight they'd become, but as living parts of herself. Try to move your right toe, Walsh instructed, his voice tense with concentration. Rhea focused, expecting the same frustration she'd experienced for months. Instead, her toe moved. The motion was slight, barely visible, but undeniable. Both she and Walsh stared in amazement. Well, he said finally, I guess humans aren't so primitive after all. The moment of triumph was interrupted by an alarm from his security system. Walsh quickly checked the monitors and cursed. We've got company. Etherian medical enforcement, and they're not alone. He pulled up a security feed showing a team of officials approaching the building, led by Dr. Vrel himself. They must have tracked me, Rhea realized. Her toe was still moving, a tiny victory about to be snatched away. They can track you, Walsh corrected, already moving to secure his data. The neural interfaces in your enhancement system, they're basically a beacon to Etherian tech. He turned to her, his expression serious. We're at a crucial point in the treatment. If they stop us now, I'll never walk again, Rhea finished. She pushed herself up, ignoring the strange sensations coursing through her body. How long do you need? 20 minutes to complete this phase. After that, the changes will be irreversible, for better or worse. Rhea's military training kicked in. Give me access to your security systems. I'll buy you time. When he hesitated, she added, Trust me, Doctor. You're not the only one who knows how to bend rules. Walsh quickly transferred security control to a tablet she could access from the treatment bed. As he resumed the procedure, Rhea's fingers flew over the controls, accessing systems and creating obstacles for the approaching team. You know, Walsh said as he worked, monitoring her vital signs while simultaneously rerouting neural pathways, most patients don't help defend the facility during their own surgery. Most patients probably follow medical advice too, Rhea replied, triggering a series of false alarms in different sectors of the building. Good thing neither of us is very good at following rules. Through the security feeds, she watched Dr. Vrel's team encountering each obstacle she created. Her military experience combined with Walsh's unorthodox security measures kept them confused and divided. But they were getting closer. Almost there, Walsh muttered. Just need to stabilize the new neural matrix. The door to the outer lab shuddered as enforcement officers began cutting through it. Ria's fingers danced across the tablet, rerouting power, creating electromagnetic interference, anything to slow them down. Done. Walsh announced just as the door began to give way. The changes are set. They can't undo it now. Ria felt a surge of sensation through her entire body as the treatment locked in. She could feel everything now, every nerve, every connection, a perfect fusion of Solarian precision and human adaptability. The door burst open. Dr. Vrel entered first, flanked by enforcement officers. He stopped short at the sight before him, Ria, still on the treatment bed but now sitting upright, her legs moving slightly but unmistakably under her own power. Impossible, he whispered. Walsh stepped forward, placing himself between the officials and his patient. Actually, Dr. Vrel, I believe you'll find that's no longer a relevant word in this case. He glanced back at Ria with a slight smile. Shall we show them what's possible when we stop trying to be perfect? Ria met his gaze and nodded. It was time to redefine what was possible, and maybe change the future of both their species in the process. The Etherian Medical Council chamber was designed to intimidate. Its soaring crystal walls amplified every sound, making each footstep echo like a judgment. But today, those echoes carried a different meaning, the sound of Ria Vale walking into the chamber under her own power, her steps precise and deliberate. The council members sat in their elevated seats, their translucent forms seeming to shimmer with barely contained outrage. Dr. Vrel stood at the prosecutor's podium, his usually melodious voice sharp with conviction as he presented his case. This unauthorized experimentation represents a dangerous degradation of medical standards, he declared. The integration of primitive human techniques with Solarian biotechnology threatens the very foundation of our medical protocols. Ria stood beside Dr. Walsh, who looked surprisingly comfortable for someone facing charges that could end his career and possibly his freedom. The gallery behind them was packed, not just with Etherians, but with humans, Solarians, and representatives from other species. Word of their breakthrough had spread quickly. The patient's mobility has been restored through unproven methods, Vrel continued. The long-term consequences of this hybrid approach are unknown. We cannot. If I may interrupt, Ria stepped forward, her movement fluid and natural. I am not here as a patient. I am here as proof. The chamber fell silent. Even the Etherian Council members leaned forward slightly, their crystalline features catching the light as they studied her with undisguised curiosity. 3 months ago, you told me I would never walk again. You said it was impossible. She gestured to her legs. Yet here I stand. Not through miracle or magic, but through the combination of human ingenuity and Solarian biology. She pulled up a holographic display, sharing her medical data. My neural patterns show a stability that exceeds pre-injury levels. The human regenerative factors haven't compromised my enhancements, they've enhanced them. I am not damaged or degraded. I am evolved. A murmur ran through the gallery. One of the council members, Elder Nyrus, spoke up. The success of one experimental treatment does not justify the violation of established medical protocols. Doesn't it? Dr. Walsh stepped forward. Your protocols are based on the assumption that more advanced always means better. But evolution doesn't work that way. Sometimes a simpler solution, combined with advanced technology, creates something new, something better. He displayed his own data, showing the detailed results of Ria's treatment. The human nervous system's ability to adapt and rewire itself, when combined with Solarian biotechnology's precision, has created a hybrid healing process that outperforms both original systems. We've already received requests from other patients, Rhea added. Not just Solarians, but members of various species who were told their conditions were beyond help. Are you prepared to deny them hope because this solution doesn't fit your definition of advancement? The council chambers erupted in discussion. In the gallery, a young Solarian girl in a hoverchair caught Rhea's attention. Her mother held her hand as they watched the proceedings, hope visible in both their eyes. Dr. Vrel noticed Rhea's gaze and followed it. For a moment, his expression softened. The risks, he began, but with less conviction, are worth taking, Walsh finished. Every medical advancement in history came with risks. The question isn't whether it's risky, it's whether we have the right to deny people the choice to take that risk. Elder Nyris raised a hand for silence. Lieutenant Commander Vale, approach. Rhea walked forward, her steps echoing in the hushed chamber. You were one of our most decorated officers. Your judgment was trusted in matters of life and death. Tell us truthfully, do you consider this treatment safe? Rhea stood straight, her military bearing evident. With respect, Elder, I consider it necessary. Progress isn't always comfortable, but it is inevitable. We can either guide it or be left behind by it. The council members conferred in hushed tones. Finally, Elder Nyris spoke again. Dr. Walsh, your methods are unorthodox, your approach challenges our most basic principles, and your disregard for protocol is troubling. A pause. However, we cannot ignore results. The tension in the chamber shifted. Walsh's posture relaxed slightly, and Rhea allowed herself a small smile. We will establish a supervised research program, Nyris continued. Your techniques will be studied, refined, and properly documented. All future treatments must be conducted under strict oversight, with full disclosure of risks to patients. And my current status? Rhea asked. Will be classified as a successful pilot study. Nyris's features arranged themselves into what might have been a smile. Though I suspect the true impact of your case will reach far beyond medical records. As the chamber began to empty, the young Solarian girl and her mother approached them. The girl looked up at Rhea with wide eyes. Will I be able to walk too? Rhea knelt down to meet her gaze. What's your name? Lyra. Well, Lyra, I can't promise it will be easy. But I can promise you this, impossible isn't what they told us it was. She glanced at Walsh, who nodded encouragingly. Sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected places. As they left the chamber, Walsh nudged her slightly. You know this is just the beginning, right? Once word gets out about what we've accomplished, the universe will never be quite the same, Rhea finished. She took another step, feeling the perfect fusion of human adaptability and Solarian precision in every movement. Good. 1 year later, the Center for Integrative Xenomedicine occupied what was once an abandoned sector of Celestis Prime. The building itself was a testament to its mission, Etherian crystal architecture seamlessly blended with practical human design elements, creating something entirely new and uniquely functional. Rhea stood at the observation window of the rehabilitation wing, watching patients of various species working with both human and Etherian medical staff. Dr. Walsh was in the center of it all, enthusiastically explaining a new hybrid treatment protocol to a group of interested practitioners. The Council of Medical Ethics requests your presence, Commander Vale, announced a melodious voice behind her. Dr. Vrel approached, his crystalline features arranged in what she now recognized as approval. Their relationship had evolved significantly since the confrontation in the underground facility. Another debate about integration protocols? Rhea asked, falling into step beside him. Her movement was fluid, natural, a perfect synthesis of Solarian grace and human resilience. Actually, they're reviewing results from the latest round of hybrid treatments. Vrel's tone carried a note of wonder that still hadn't faded. The success rates are unprecedented. particularly among cases previously deemed untreatable. They walked through corridors where Etherian medical displays shared space with human-designed diagnostic equipment. In treatment rooms, doctors from both species worked together, each contributing their unique perspectives and methodologies. Did you ever imagine this? Rhea gestured to a room where a young Etherian healer was earnestly learning human massage techniques from a human therapist. A year ago, this would have been considered a degradation of medical standards. A year ago, I would have led the protests against it, Vrel admitted. But watching you walk into that council chamber. He paused. It challenged everything I thought I knew about progress. They entered the council chamber, now modified to accommodate representatives from multiple species. Elder Nyrus presided over a diverse panel of medical experts, including several humans. Dr. Walsh was already there, engaged in animated discussion with a Solarian biotechnology specialist. "Ah, Commander Vale," Nyrus greeted her. "We were just reviewing your latest proposal for expanding the program." Rhea took her place at the presentation podium, activating a holographic display that merged human and Etherian interface designs. The results speak for themselves. By combining human regenerative techniques with advanced alien biotechnology, we're not just treating injuries, we're redefining what's possible in medicine. The display showed statistics from the past year, hundreds of successfully treated patients, conditions ranging from neural damage to genetic disorders, all addressed through the integration of multiple medical philosophies. But more importantly, she continued, we're breaking down barriers between species. Every successful treatment proves that progress doesn't have to mean abandoning traditional methods. Sometimes the oldest solutions, combined with the newest technology, create something revolutionary. Walsh stepped forward, adding his perspective. We're seeing applications we never imagined. Humans learning to incorporate Etherian precision, Etherians embracing human adaptability. Even species we hadn't considered are bringing their own medical traditions to the table. Which brings us to our next proposal, Rhea said, changing the display. We want to establish similar centers on other worlds. Not just human colonies or Etherian outposts, but anywhere people need hope. The chamber erupted in discussion, but it wasn't the skepticism of a year ago. Now there was excitement, possibility, the recognition that they were part of something transformative. After the session, Rhea found herself back in the rehabilitation wing. Lyra, the young Solarian girl from the council hearing a year ago, was there for her final checkup. She was running now, her movement a beautiful demonstration of what their work could achieve. Commander Vale. Lyra called out, rushing over to hug her. Did you see? I can dance now. Rhea knelt down, remembering when she'd first met this child in a hoverchair. I saw. You're amazing, Lyra. You're proof of what we can achieve when we work together. Is it true? Lyra asked, her eyes bright. Are you going to help people on other worlds too? That's the plan. There are a lot of people out there who need hope. Walsh joined them, watching as Lyra demonstrated a series of spins that would have been impossible a year ago. You know, he said quietly to Rhea, when I first started breaking medical laws and mixing technologies, I just wanted to help one person walk again. I never imagined that we'd end up changing the universe. Rhea smiled. Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest steps. As they watched Lyra dance, Rhea reflected on her journey. Her injury had seemed like the end of everything she knew, but instead it had become a beginning. She'd learned that true strength wasn't in perfection, but in adaptation, in the willingness to embrace new possibilities. The center would continue to grow, bringing together the best of all worlds to help those in need. But more than that, it stood as a symbol of what could be achieved when different species set aside their prejudices and worked together. In the end, it wasn't about walking again, it was about moving forward, one step at a time, into a future where nothing was impossible. Outside the center's windows, the sun was setting over Celestis Prime, its light refracting through the crystal spires of the city. The gleam caught Rhea's silver-flecked skin, highlighting the subtle changes where human medical science had merged with Solarian biology. She was neither purely one nor the other now, but something new, just like the future they were building, one patient, one breakthrough, one step at a time.